Why the hell would you think I would have a shirt with like hearts or love on it?
I mean,
how long have you known me?
I mean, anything more Valentine's-y than that.
Than this?
Yeah.
This is like the perfect Valentine's. Look at how it, look how it fits perfectly around my pecs.
It does accentuate the goods. Yeah, absolutely.
That's all the ladies want. They don't want hearts and red shirts. They want the good stuff. Did you,
They want a shirt that says Brawny Man. That says...
Did you see the line for all the people buying flowers today at Metro Market?
No, I went to Metro about 7 a.m. and I got the hell out of there right away.
Yeah. So I was there. Well, first of all, you're texting me. You're at the age now where you're doing like old people conversations because you're texting me about, hey, chicken's $2 a pound at Metro Market. You know what that reminded me of?
That's such a great deal. I'll be a boomer. I'll take that hit.
It completely reminded me about commercials from the 90s. They probably still have commercials like this, but where the old ladies are sitting around the table and they're talking about how terrible it is that Jack died and how they don't know how his wife's going to afford the funeral because Social Security only pays like $750 or whatever that conversation is, and how you need term life insurance. That's what that conversation is.
Yeah.
Except it's just about chicken instead of term life insurance. Hey, chicken is however much that was.
Did your phone ding at you?
Oh, fuck. I forgot to bring it down.
Oh, no.
So...
Jeffro, IT guy, are we on? Please tell us.
It should be fine. We should be running. Hold on. Let me double check. Yeah, we're going.
Okay.
We're going. Yep.
Heck yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I was there about noon today, and the line was wrapped around the store from dudes trying to buy flowers for all Valentine's Day is another chore for men. Like none of those dudes, like I'm going to reveal some man secrets here, but none of those guys are there because they love their wives and girlfriends. They are there for the same reason that they pick up their dirty socks off the floor. Exactly the same reason, because they don't want to hear the yap yap. That is it. That's the only reason.
Al Bundy really was your TV dad, wasn't he?
Oh, he was, and he taught me so much. But I mean, like a lot of the dudes standing in line too are just like the most beaten down, sad looking, schlubby dudes you have ever seen in your life. I remember being a kid and seeing these guys and just being like, I will never be like you. And, well, I'm not waiting in the Valentine schlub line at Metro Market. But seriously, they're just like, they have no life in their eyes and they just have like these droopy faces and like they've just completely given up on life. And they're like, well, gotta get flowers for the boss. They're like those people. Oh my God. If I have any message for the younger dudes in our audience, it's this. When you're dating a girl and you think you might marry her, don't go hard in the dating process. Everybody makes this mistake where they buy all the chocolates and all the flowers and they're always trying to secure the love of a woman.
So they simp themselves into a corner.
When you propose to her and she says yes, it's because she thinks you're going to do this for her forever. That's the reason.
And there's nowhere to go but down from there.
Everybody goes down. Why do you think the divorce rate is so high? Because the only people who aren't divorced are the people who are waiting in the schlub line or the people like me who played it cool the whole time. See, guess what I got my wife for Valentine's Day today?
Big old bag of nothing.
A big old bag of nothing. That's right. Her expectations are already set, but they're not set low. They're just set to surprise. I didn't get my wife anything today, but the other day I bought her a heart-shaped box of chocolates when I went to pick us up dinner. And I brought it home and I said, here, this is for you, because it's Valentine's Day and the shit's all over the place. So I just picked one up and I brought it, not on Valentine's Day, but like a week ago. And she was happy with that. See, I'm all about the surprise element. Don't do like the normal holiday stuff. Do it throughout the year so she never knows what to expect. And that way, you don't have to wait in the schlub line at Metro Market waiting to get flowers.
I feel like this at least partially ties into the age-old saying, it's better to under-promise and over-deliver than to over-promise and under-deliver. Man, those are words to live by, for sure. Don't set expectations high because you got nowhere to go but failure town from there.
Yeah.
You know?
But when you go and do something, make it fun and make it like a big thing. So like
it's more memorable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is more memorable. So next year, my wife's not going to remember that I didn't buy her anything on Valentine's Day, because throughout the year, I bring it.
You bring it.
That's right.
That's what we do here at Mindful 90s. We just bring it.
I feel like you would have been in the schlub line.
No, I'm the kind that gets there shortly after they open, so you would have
beat the rush.
I would have been the schlub who beat the rush of the schlub line. Yeah, for sure.
The most energetic schlub. The one with the least droopiest face. That would have been you. But the other thing is too, like, why flowers? Like, get candy. Because then you can later shame your wife because she eats too much junk food. And you can be like, yeah, honey, I mean, I'm glad that you enjoyed that little snack, but I mean, you got to hit the treadmill a little bit, baby.
Al, let's have sex. Well, maybe if you didn't eat so many candies and bonbons, Peg. There you go. So I mentioned bonbons because, like, that's one of the things that they had right by the doors when you walked into Metro Market this morning. Was
bonbons?
These weird 4-packs of these, like, things that I just glanced at them briefly as I walked past. It's like these big bonbons that they've, like, altered to kind of look like chocolate flowers. Like, they were weird and they looked really cool, which is why I didn't even bother to look at the price, because I'm like, I don't want to know how much they're overcharging for those things.
Oh yeah.
But there were a lot of them, like a lot, because they looked cool and they looked decadent. So
well, everything will be on sale tomorrow.
Ooh, thanks for reminding me. Yeah, I might have to.
That's going to be the time to buy everything.
I might have to pop in 7 a.m. tomorrow again.
So in my house, I celebrate Valentine's Day on the 15th, not the 14th. That's the other way to do it. But yeah, like I said, it's a chore. It's a chore to do all that shit. Yeah. And it's the expectation that drives me insane.
Well, I mean, especially since the expectation is essentially set by Hallmark, right? I mean,
It is. It's deeper than that, and I'm going to talk about that today.
Yes, I don't want to get out of myself here. All right. I wanted to mention real quick, since the last time we went live, I went to the doctor and I got simple blood labs done, and it turns out that my vitamin D was way too low and my triglycerides were way too high. So I've been taking a vitamin D supplement since Saturday, and I'm noticing a difference already. I don't think it's just in my head. I think I'm really noticing a difference.
Yeah, vitamins.
Yeah.
You need vitamins.
Well, I mean, you're Mister. You don't want to put anything in your body even when you're feeling sick. So I figured.
Oh yeah, I won't even take like an Excedrin or anything like that.
You're not okay with pain pills, but you're okay with vitamins? Like, would you take a supplement, or do you just get enough vitamins?
Well, your body needs vitamins to actually function. You don't need like hydrocodone. You don't need aspirin.
You don't know me.
You don't have a headache because you're lacking aspirin in your body. You have a headache because of something else. You're lacking a vitamin, or you're not drinking enough water or something like that.
Once viewers start telling your friends that you're just dishing out all the life advice here, our ratings are going to start to go up, man.
I'm a hub for life advice.
Yeah, I guess.
I've been married a long time, so I know I got marriage advice.
You know a thing or two about a thing or two.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, dude, vitamin D, my normal range is between 30 and 100, and I was at 14 and a half. I'm like,
I don't know what that means.
It just means that I was very, very deficient. Probably.
You mean the bags of Doritos you eat don't provide you with enough vitamin D on a daily basis? The cereal.
No, it's the bag says rich in triglycerides. I thought it said rich in vitamin D. That was my dumb mistake.
Wow.
Anyone could have.
It's like drinking milk instead of milk. It's an honest mistake.
Plenty of milk. So I'm trying to eat a little bit better, and the vitamin D pills are awesome. I feel like when something stresses me out, or if something happens where I would normally get lightheaded, it doesn't happen now. Like for the last 5 days, I've just felt better. And I'm like, wow, imagine if I would have started doing this a long time ago.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what eating healthy can do for you.
Yep. I wouldn't say I'm eating healthy yet, but I'm getting there. Today I bought a bunch of celery. Is that what you call it? Just a bunch, a bushel, a wad?
I don't know. I don't eat it.
One of those things is celery. I couldn't tell you. It's probably been decades since I just bought one of those, because I always said to myself, well, I don't dislike celery, but there are so many other things I'd rather eat, like fucking donuts and bagels and stuff, So I'm like, but wait a minute. Celery is really good for you, and it's pretty cheap, and I haven't eaten it in a long time, and well, maybe I should buy that. So I did. Something to go with my peanut butter. And
there's probably all kinds of vitamins and minerals in there that your body hasn't even seen for a while.
When I haven't eaten any yet, but tomorrow I'm probably going to have a stalk of celery with peanut butter, and my body,
it's probably going to reject it like a transplant or something. It's going to be like, wait a minute, this isn't sodium glyphosate number 2.
I was thinking my body would be so happy that it would party, but I think we're both right. My body's going to be so happy that it's going to party, but it's going to party so hard that it's going to puke. So that's what's going to happen.
I gave up, for the most part, I gave up drinking this year, and I can feel major differences. It's been, I think, Christmas Eve, I think, was the last time I really drank a lot.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's been that long, and you can tell the difference.
It's almost like we're trying harder to love ourselves by eating better.
No, I don't care. I just don't want to feel sick and sleepy all the time. That's all I care about.
Come on, today's the Valentine's Day theme. You got to go with it here. You got to stick with me here. But we shouldn't be talking about Valentine's and love of now. We should be talking about Valentine's and love of the 90s. So,
yeah. Okay. You ready to start the show?
I think
Let's get going.
You got this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have a rhyme for this week? All right, I got one. I got one in case you didn't have one.
I had something, but it didn't rhyme. So, go ahead.
Oh, that's no good. It's got a rhyme.
Yeah.
That's what makes it fun. Okay. Welcome to the Mindful 90s podcast, the only podcast that relives every 90s topic from a man dreadlock music complex to the music of Tool is better than sex.
Right on, brother.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really know how to encapsulate your topic from last, because it was all like your mom and hair, and how you would think that certain music was cool if the hairstyle was cool enough. So, but complex rhymes with sex. So.
No, you done good. Now I'm gonna make it my goal to outdo you next week
with a rhyme.
Yeah, hopefully.
Good luck with that. I've already rhymed wedding tape and
lactate,
and now complex and sex.
There you go.
I feel like I'm killing it with these rhymes.
You're a regular. Let's see, snow. Yes, that'll do well. Oh my God, I'll actually bring him in as a topic sometime. For those who can't see, I'm wearing a The Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels shirt, appropriate for Valentine's Day in the 90s, I would say. I love this shirt.
We've already determined you love big, bulky, sweaty wrestlers.
And that's why I put posters of them up in my room. Yes. So I guess my first topic that doesn't necessarily relate to Valentine's Day, but relates to themes tangential to love is, my first topic is I hate the Macarena, like super hard.
Okay.
I
think that speaks to a lot of people.
That's the quick way of putting it. The slightly longer way of putting it is I really hated the song in the 90s. And if you would have asked me, I would have said it's bad, it's wrong, it's terrible, it's everything negative. And now I seem to say this a lot. I'm a little older and a little wiser, and I'll still say it sucks and I hate it. But I'm not going to say that it's wrong, like objectively.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean wrong? Like, what do you mean by that? When you first said it, I thought you meant as a song. Like, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, as a song. Yeah. I remember back in the 90s, a lot of people would like blame violent video games and nasty song lyrics for being the downfall of our society. We actually touched on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Tipper Gore stuff.
Yep. Satanic panic shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would defend it and say, hey, it's performance art. If it's not your kind of performance art, just turn the channel. Back in the 90s, I would have completely been a hypocrite and said, yeah, but the Macarena sucks. So that song is wrong and it is bad and it should go away completely. I'll admit to that. Back in the 90s, I would have totally been a hypocrite about that and said that song needs to just go away and never come back. That's okay to have as an opinion, but like I would have stated that as fact. I would have been like, no, this song really sucks and it's just wrong.
Yeah, but how can you say that? Because it was a really famous hit song. A lot of people loved that song. So why were you right?
Where do I even begin answering that? Let me start out by talking about the research, quote unquote. I have to put that in quotes because when you Google search something, it doesn't count as research. I looked up.
Sure, it is.
I mean,
that's how responsible people learn everything they know about medicine.
Googling stuff and finding the Wikipedia entry.
Yeah.
Well, then give me a PhD, an honorary PhD degree in 90s-ology. So the Macarena, it started out, I'm starting at the start here. It started out as a song that was a hit in 1991 over in some foreign country. It might have been Spain, something like that. And then the right record executives heard it and were like, wait a minute, the core of this song is like really good and really catchy, but if we were to do a remix of it, give it a beat that would more appeal to American audiences, like American radio listening audiences.
Is it not a Latin American song?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I thought you said it came from Spain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess
that's
Spain,
Europe.
Spain is Latin, but I wish I could. I wish I could remember what was the first country it was released in, but I'm talking about like taking it more global and like putting it all over all the clubs in Europe and like making it way bigger than just the country where it was released. Like these record execs saw potential in it. They're like, let's give it a bigger, better beat and give it a remix and give it a facelift and all the stuff that Hollywood does to make something pop. And so it had a few different remixes before finally the what is called the Bayside Boys remix happened. That's the one that we all heard in 1993. That's the one that we heard every hour on the hour for like the entire year of 93 was the Bayside Boys remix. That was like the third, give or take, version of that song at that point. And
okay, so why did they get to run with it and make a bunch of money off it?
America is where it broke, is where it just became a phenomenon literally
Oh, you're
overnight.
saying they're the guys that brought it here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. All right.
Yep. The name of the actual recording artist is Los Del Rio. And as I'm looking at the Wikipedia entry for this song, it says that the female vocals on the song, the verses, was done by somebody named, I think it was Carla Vanessa. I don't know if she got the job randomly, like just got hired traditionally, or if she like knew somebody. I don't know that much.
Is she hot?
Yeah, yeah.
That's why she got the job.
But she signed a contract to not get royalties.
What?
Yeah, right?
Why?
She signed what was
Did
called
she not know that? Did she get screwed over or what?
I don't know many details, and I actually kept Googling it to try to find more details, and they're really hard to find. At least they were for me.
Well, now I want to know.
She signed what was called a fixed fee contract, and my first thought was, that's dumb. Why'd you do that? But then my second thought was like, oh, wait, it was probably one of those things where it's like, if she said no, they would just find somebody else who would say yes.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Because the song definitely wasn't about vocals and vocal prowess, and it wasn't about making a new singer popular. It was a half a notch above novelty. You know what I mean?
It was probably just a cash grab for her.
Yeah.
She probably thought she's not going to get famous from doing this, so why not?
I could have sworn several years ago I heard somebody say that she was just like found on the street. Like in the studio, like the guys came out and just started asking random women walking down the street if they wanted to come in and make $50 by doing the vocals for this song in one take. I heard that from somewhere. I don't know how true that is, but I mean, it almost might as well be, because
it's a good legend.
Yeah. So she didn't get any royalties. And do you think she had any idea how much that song was going to blow up?
Probably not.
Good Lord. That was 93. We're now in 24, so that would have been 31 freaking years ago already. You know how the lyrics of the song kind of go back and forth between Spanish and American English?
Yeah, do you know what that song's about?
I do.
Okay.
Why don't you tell me what you think it's about? Make sure I got all the details here.
No, you can go ahead. I mean, I don't really remember. Rosalind told me one time.
Okay.
Well, but that was a long, long time ago. Basically, she said she's a whore. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. But I mean, she obviously speaks Spanish, so she told me what it was all about.
The lyrics start out with like, I'm Macarena. I believe in like celebrating my body and loving myself and feeling good and doing what I want to do. So being promiscuous, it's like, all right, that's cool. Whatever, do your thing. And then the second verse, she basically admits that when her boyfriend / fiance left for the army, she cheated on him with 2 of his friends.
Oh, sure.
So I knew about the cheating part because...
That's not just a Latin American thing. That happens to a lot of army dudes.
Yeah. Yup. That's a different topic. I mean, I knew that the song mentioned cheating because I have working ears, but I did not know that it was him leaving for the army. I didn't know that until today, as a matter of fact, when I was Googling it. It hits a little different now, especially since I'm former Navy.
Why? Well, that shit just goes, but it's not like half the soldiers are being all that faithful either. Yeah. You're not going to come into port where there's hot Latina chicks and not have some fun.
And just be like, I have to stay true to my Valentine.
Yeah, why would you do that? That's crazy.
Yeah. Some people are crazy.
Some people take marriage way too seriously.
I'll drink to that, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so back in the 90s, I would have said, oh, this song is wrong and bad and should be, catapulted into the sun.
What about while you're on the boat?
What do you mean?
Well, because when the song was on the radio, you weren't that old. But when you were in the Navy, out in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere, fighting the good fight on the war on terror, keeping us all safe, what would you have thought of it then, knowing what you know now? Would it still be the same thing? Or would you be sitting there like, man, I can't wait till we pull into port because I got to get me some poo?
I actually would have thought the same thing because I'm that crazy guy who did take relationships seriously. In the Navy, every single time I would say the phrase "in the Navy," my old friend Dirk, may he rest in peace, could not help himself from interrupting me doing one of these and going, "In the Navy." He did it every single time like clockwork. That son of a gun. It was after I got out of the Navy that I went to college and actually learned what philosophy was and learned what thinking was. And then I would go back and re-listen to George Carlin, and I'm like, oh, it makes a lot more sense now. And then I'm like, I'm going to do more of that thinking thing. And that's when I started thinking about things in my life. And then eventually at some point I thought about the Macarena, and I'm like, you know what? That song is bad and I hate it, but it's at the end of the day, it's performance art. It's just a song about something that somebody did. I can't say that it's wrong. I can't say that it needs to go away, because then I'd be a giant hypocrite for saying Macarena can't stay, but Mortal Kombat can, you know?
I feel like you hurt my brain with that whole explanation. Just because the whole song is about her cheating on her army dude. Here you are in the military. You're not really attached to anybody. You're just out in the middle of nowhere. And like it all came down to like, hey, I'm going to join college with my Navy money and learn philosophy, instead of I'm going to go out with the bros and get drunk and bang hot Latina chicks.
If I did 4 years, if I would have signed up for another 4 years, I would have gotten pretty much the biggest pay jump from pay grade to pay grade that there is, from E4 to E5.
That's a lot of foreign whore money.
I would have gotten basic allowance for housing, all kinds of cool stuff like that. I would have gotten another deployment or two.
Well, what about the dudes that you were with? Were they not doing that?
Some of them definitely were.
And you didn't just like tag along just for the fun of it?
I did not.
Dude, if I were in a similar circumstance back then, knowing who I was back then, like right now, I'd be like, it's too much energy. I mean, who's got the time? But back then, I definitely would have been drinking and whoring nonstop.
Right on.
There's no way I would.
In the 90s, though, you know what? I think if you were to sit me down and talk to me in the 90s and ask me why I hate Macarena so much and why I thought it should be, you know, set on fire and thrown screaming from a helicopter, George Carlin, I would have probably said, you know, if it was like a real heart to heart, I probably would have said something like, man, when you're me, it's hard enough to get a girlfriend, hard enough to find love and have a Valentine and things of that nature.
Now when you're in the military and you have money and you're in a foreign country.
No, I'm talking about the 90s when I didn't know yet that I was going to be joining the Navy.
I feel like you weren't even thinking about that when you were in the Navy, though. Do you know how easy it is to get foreign women? Like really, really easy.
How many times have I mentioned to you that nobody in the 90s mentored me? I didn't have anybody to tell me, dude, when you're in these European port visits, if you don't go out and get some poon, you'll regret it forever.
No, don't try to get European chicks. They're like some of the most stuck up, hardest to get. You got to focus on the third world, babe. That's where you got to go.
I do know that some of the port visits we had in the Gulf reportedly had whorehouses. I don't know what else to call them. Gentlemen's establishments.
No, they were whorehouses.
where they had a variety of women from all over the world. That's what I heard.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, they were probably all sex trafficked too. Middle East. There's a lot of that going on.
I will go ahead and say nobody mentored me. Nobody told me, like Shulky put it into perspective. You're probably never going to get a chance like this again. It doesn't necessarily mean I would have done it even still, but I wish I could have looked at it more objectively and made a more informed decision. Well, instead of just being afraid not to.
But what I'm saying is that if you wanted to get a chick, that's the time to do it.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't know.
I know so many people who came back from the military with wives from wherever they were at.
I'm Facebook friends with a couple of my old Navy buddies who I see pictures of them all the time with their wives that are from the countries they visited.
Now, it doesn't always work out. Like I had a buddy that I lived in Iowa with. His dad or his mom was a woman from Korea that his dad brought back when he was in the Marines. And I mean, she tried killing him on a couple occasions. So she had to go back home, but it doesn't always work out the best, but
did he deserve attempted homicide?
I don't know.
See, these are the details I want to know.
I think according to my friend, she was just a loose cannon. So I don't know.
Maybe she was just a big old Macarena. You know what I mean? It's hard to say.
She cheated. So you got to the part where she cheated on her man who was in the military a couple times. Right. What was the rest of it, though?
That's it. It goes, what was I supposed to do? He was out of town, and his two friends...
what am I supposed to do? Not be a whore?
And his two friends were so fine. And then the rest of the song is just the chorus over and over again. So that was the end of the narrative, as it were. Yeah, in the 90s, I would have said it's hard enough for somebody like me to get a chick. The last thing... and the chicks I was looking for in the 90s was like somebody who would be not a Macarena, somebody who would be true.
And see, I was kind of the other way. Like, I didn't really care.
So I'm like, the last thing we need is a song like this.
The last thing I needed was a chick who wanted to be true to me.
Right on. You just wanted flings while listening to Tool. I can understand that.
Not while I was listening to Tool. Well, the whole point of last week was that wasn't going to happen.
I'm sorry, flings and Tool alternating, and colored hair, multicolored, shaved, Liberty spiked hair,
I was bringing
whatever else you did. So yeah, and you know, like in hindsight though, like, yeah, I would have told you in the 90s that the last thing I need is a song like this influencing the chicks that I'm trying to get to be even worse people.
So you were you became one of those people where you're like, oh, all this violence in video games is going to turn our kids trans.
No. That's what the point I'm getting to is, like, at that time, I wouldn't have realized, like, well, maybe those chicks look at you and say the last thing I need is a guy who watches shows like Beavis and Butthead, and they would have had just as good of a point just coming from a different angle. I wouldn't have realized it at the time because...
it all just depends on the person.
And the perspective.
Like, it's stupid.
It's all kind of stupid. Macarena's performance art, Beavis and Butthead, and Mortal Kombat, and Jack's ripping your arms off in a video game, and blood spraying everywhere. It's all performance art. It is what it is, and you can't, like I said a million times, you can't say any of it's wrong or bad, because that doesn't really make sense. You can just say you like it or you hate it, and that's it.
We had to do the Macarena in band during a football game one time.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was pretty awful. I don't know that was boomer humor, I guess I'll call it, because the band teacher thought it would be so cool to have everybody out there doing the half, because we always had to go out and play at halftime. I must have been in like 9th grade. So we would go out there and do our halftime songs, and then the Macarena was really famous at the time. So what did you say, 93?
93 or 94.
Okay, yeah. So right in there. And one of the halftime shows we did, we had to play the dumb songs, whatever they are, and then we had to play the Macarena. But then at some point, everybody had to put their like instruments down and like actually do the dance. And I don't even remember how it was now, but it was like whatever. And we all had to do it on the field. And I mean, of course, I just half-assed it. I was just like, this is so dumb.
What about the fucking drummer boys? They can't take off their drum, but they're not going to have the available arm space.
We had to do it. We had to take off the drums. And the thing is, we got these like big ass rigs that are sitting on our shoulders that weigh 30 pounds. So we had to like huff them. It's not like we just had an instrument that we just had to set down. We had to like it was like a whole process, and we had to do this.
That's like worse than being a simping schlub waiting in line to buy flowers on Valentine's Day outside of Metro Market when it's 20 degrees outside. That's worse by a lot.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But it was a pain in the ass. That's all I remember about it. And the thing is, I didn't give a shit about that song one way or another. Obviously, it was famous. Obviously, it was everywhere and popular. The only time I really hated that song was in that moment where we had to, because we had to practice that too. So throughout the week, we'd have to go out there on the football field and do the band practice thing. And every single time we had to huff these things off our shoulders, and it was just a big pain in the ass.
Fair
and
enough,
there's like no payoff. Well, other than getting some parents sitting in the stands like, woo, yeah. Who cares?
I hate to even mention this, but I have to. At one point, when the Macarena had already like kind of peaked and was actually tapering out a little bit, at one point, my neighbor girl runs up to me after school one day and says, with a big bright smile on her face, "Andy, I can do the Macarena dance." And I'm just like, what? And she starts to do the Macarena dance with a grinning ear to ear to no music. And I'm just like, so many thoughts in my head, like, this song still isn't dead yet. And
now young children are listening.
It's infecting children. And it's just,
but they don't speak Spanish. Who cares?
I mean,
they
that
just
helps.
like the beat.
That certainly helps. But I'm just like, a song like This Is a Poison. But again, other people saw the stuff that I liked as a poison too. So.
But did you know that Latin dance songs are actually a pretty big thing, or they were back then?
Oh, yeah.
The college station used to have a Latin dance party segment, I guess, on the radio. And it was like every Sunday night or something like that. And I used to listen to that all the time. And that was a lot of fun. And it's all just these Spanish guys singing about how she's fire and they're gasoline, and they're just going to pour themselves on her and she's going to get really hot. And they're all songs like that.
That's every Rihanna song, I think.
Yeah, but Latin dudes, they got a flair for that kind of thing.
Hey, sexy parties. That was a thing when we had port visits in Italy. They knew when an American Navy vessel was coming to their town, so they could prepare. Obviously the town is going to be informed. We're going to have an influx of this many people for X amount of time. Mm-hmm. And these dudes whose job it is to try to get people to go to their club, pick their club over all the other possible clubs. They just randomly walk up to you on the street and say, "Hey, you're American. You're looking for sexy party, right?" Like, such a stereotype, but like I saw it with my own eyes. I'm like, that was very real. And I'm like, my captain warned me about you.
Yeah, and you were just like, "Nope, sorry. I got a girl back home. I am not ready for sexy party at all. I'm going to go sit on the boat and read philosophy. That's my plan for tonight." Where's the sexy philosophy study club?
And I do it all while softly whimpering with a tear in my eye, because the truth is, I was ready for sexy party.
The truth is, you could have got so much poon back then.
I was so ready for sexy
idea.
Party. Oh my God. But that was the red light district. We weren't allowed to go there.
My dad said when he was in the Marines, they were stationed in Japan, and before you're even allowed to get off the boat or to leave the base, you had to have like a briefing,
a rundown, absolutely,
where they show you all the parts in town that you're not supposed to go to. And of course, he said, "No, we knew those were the parts of towns we can get drugs and whores, so that was the first place that we went." And I'm just like, yeah, that makes total sense, right?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
It's so funny that people really simp for the military and like will give up their seats for a troop on the airplane and everything and just think that, Jesus is really with this guy. You know what? Most of the troops that I'm friends with, they're degenerates of the absolute lowest caliber. I mean, they're fun people, and I'd hang out with them any night of the week. But yeah, they were definitely into the drugs and the horrors and everything else.
I'll never forget one particular night when we were in Palma de Mallorca, Spain, and that particular port visit that town happened to be home of a place called BCM, which at that time, this would have been summer of '01, was the second biggest nightclub in the whole world with nightly phone parties. Nightly phone parties. Yeah, it was just down the road. I came close to going into it, but I didn't actually go into it. I had to be, because I was low ranking, I had to be back by 9 p.m., but I should have at least went there just to say I went.
You had a bedtime in the Navy?
It was the time you had to be back to your ship by. It was a tiered system. E3 and below had to be back by 9. E4 and E5 had to be back by 10, and then like Chiefs didn't have to be back till 11 or midnight, some shit like that. Huh. So you can still go out and enjoy a little bit of the nightlife, but if you're low ranking, but not too terribly much of it.
And that's the thing too. Like if you go to the sexy party, probably after a couple of drinks, you're just like, fuck the Navy, fuck the bedtime. I'm gonna stay out here all night. That's how it goes.
I think, yeah. It is how it goes, and I know a couple of documented cases of how it almost went like that, but
you were a good boy.
But I was a good boy, and I didn't want to go to those clubs because I was afraid they might play the new remix of Macarena. I mean, that's what I was really avoiding at the end of the day. That's what it was. I didn't want...
but girls love the Macarena. That's the only thing that matters.
I was in the Navy trying to avoid shell shock from the Macarena before I was in the Navy. How do you like them apples? I didn't want to experience the PTSD of Amherst.
I don't know.
I'm only half serious about that, but
is that all you got on the Macarena? I think you got some more fun facts.
Any more fun facts about it? No, I think I listed all of them. That chick that sang didn't get paid diddly squat. And
that's a little shocking.
Yeah, and that song made
it's
buku.
Not that shocking.
And then, oh God, after that song ran its course, then remember it was replaced by "Don't Want No Short Man." I'm like, ooh, another song that I really wish wasn't infecting young ladies.
It's a race to the bottom.
It really was.
I mean, it was how many decades to get to wet ass pussy?
Fair enough. I'm good. That's my topic. The Macarena sucks, but what are you gonna do? That's my moral.
Yeah, nothing. You should have had more sexy time in the Navy. That's all I got out of all that.
It probably would have been therapeutic. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's Valentine's Day. So I wanted to talk about Valentine's Day. I think to sum it all up, it's just to kind of show how Valentine's Day really has brainwashed men to absolutely conform. And part of that was watching the schlubs in the line and knowing they didn't want to be there. But it really all just comes down to all of society and culture just revolves around what really is just a silly Hallmark holiday, to the point that if you don't get your wife flowers, or, I mean, not mine, I mean, we have a different thing going on, but for the most part, if you don't get your wife or girlfriend flowers and chocolates on Valentine's Day, she takes that as a personal insult, which I find pretty fascinating, which all starts in school, I think. School is the beginning of all of this. Do you remember doing card exchanges in school?
Uh-huh.
Or the lead up to the classroom card exchange, you were doing art projects.
You constructed your little box, your inbox.
Yeah, you constructed the little inbox, but you also had to make Valentine's art projects like for your mom or your grandma or whoever. And
now that you mention it, yeah, I forgot.
There was a whole lead up to it. Like the whole week of Valentine's was all about, like, you would do math problems like word problems where it's like, if Bobby has 5 pieces of heart-shaped chocolates and he gives Maria 3 pieces of heart-shaped chocolates, how many does Bobby have left?
How much of a simp is Bobby? Yeah.
And the answer is Bobby has none, because Maria cries and throws a fit that Bobby doesn't love her enough to give her all the chocolates. So the answer really is 0. But we don't learn that. We don't learn that part of it.
They don't teach you the real stuff in school.
Right.
The real life lessons.
That's kind of where I'm going to. This is all just manufactured bullshit. This is what we learned in school. Manufactured bullshit. We taught little girls to have super high expectations for this Hallmark holiday, and we taught little boys that you have to do something on this day for whoever the woman is in your life. You know, when you're little, it's your mom. But no, even in like 4th grade, you have your girlfriend, you know. But here, I made this little Valentine's card for you.
Oh, Lord.
This is the kind of stuff that we did in school.
To Andy from Corey, Valentine's stuff makes me want to hurl. Beers and bros are better than a girl.
There you go.
Heck yeah, dude.
See, that's the kind of stuff that you would have been absolutely forbidden to do in school. The first rule about the Valentine card exchange is everybody gets a Valentine, and you're not allowed to exclude anybody. You're not allowed to, I cut that out. I drew the heart on construction paper. I cut it out. The to and the from even have little hearts instead of O's.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I put a lot of thought and a lot of work into that. So
everybody gets a Valentine. Don't leave anybody out.
As a kid, it felt like such a chore to me. It just felt like having to do more homework, because you had to go home the night before Valentine's Day, and you had to, usually they would send a list of all the kids in class. I think that was for the parents, because I never used it. Usually by February, everybody's in an assigned seat. You can remember where everybody sits in class and just make your Valentine's card based. At least that's how I did it. You can't exclude anybody. You don't. What I found out later on was that people used to stress about that as kids.
I mildly did. A little.
Did you stress about the message that you were sending to certain people by the card that you were giving them?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's what other people told me about this. I wasn't that kid. I basically had my stack of Valentine's cards to Joey, to Marissa, to Jake, to blah, 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 and just sent them out. Like, it didn't matter. I could have been declaring my love for Jake and Joey for all I know. I just didn't give a shit. It was to me, it was school taking up more of my time.
Yeah.
I already had to do homework, and now I got to do this dumb shit. So what I thought would be fun is if I went back and actually found some old school 1990s Valentine's cards.
Oh, badass.
So this is the kind of stuff that
I feel like I might have bought those.
These Ninja Turtle cards?
In like 90, maybe.
Here's another thing that really pissed me off about Valentine's cards. They would take our favorite superheroes and totally emasculate them.
Turn them into dweebs, yeah, for sure.
They would turn them into these losers declaring love for, like, girls with cooties. Like, what the hell's going on?
Shredder is not going to say you're neat.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Look at that. They're just jumping around with all their weaponry saying, "Be my Valentine." That is so fucking lame. There is no time that is ever going to happen with the Ninja Turtles. But they did this with all of our superheroes, and that's so sad. Look at, I don't even know what's going on with Bebop and Rocksteady over here. I think maybe they were turning everything gay even back then.
Right on.
So, yeah, whatever. We got gay cartoon characters. I don't know what the message is, but
I'm sure those guys tore it up in the clubs.
Yeah. Sure, they tore it up in other places too.
Oh, Lord.
So, what else we got? Oh, Captain Planet. Captain Planet was a big one. So here's another aspect of the Valentine's trading card. Not only did they fuck up all our superheroes, but the kind of cards that you got for people were always a reflection of what kind of person they were. The only person giving you Captain Planet cards are the person whose parents are hippies.
I was going to say preppies. Yeah.
Well, no, I got preppy ones too.
Okay.
So the hippies, definitely, like the people who really cared about, like back then it was the ozone layer. It wasn't really so much global climate change that everybody talks about now. Back then it was the ozone layer. We were destroying the ozone layer. Captain Planet.
They used to talk about acid rain a lot back then. Not so much now.
Yeah. There was all kinds, the world was going to end. Just like it is now. And here's the secret, kids. The world never ends, actually. It's just really a lot of fear for every single generation.
Toby Keith made a song about that, bless his heart.
Did he? What was that?
Remember both ends of the ozone burning? Funny how the world keeps turning? That's what you just said.
Oh, I don't know. I never heard it, but Toby knew what he was... But you're getting this from your hippie friends, but the hippies tended to be more activist minded. They definitely were more aware of all the climate stuff. And I remember a couple of people in my grade who were way into Earth Day. That was like a big thing.
Do you remember this one? Save the planet. There was
vaguely, what was that?
It was like this weird song that was kind of an offshoot from choir that you could like sing if you wanted to, just to be a hippie.
Wait, what does that mean? You can just sing, like if you're sitting in class, you're allowed to just sing the Save the Planet song?
I don't remember the details, but like certain girls like got together in a group and memorized it and did the little choreography, and I'm not sure where they performed it. They might have... Maybe it had something to do with 4-H or something. It had to have been tied to some sort of group.
When you were doing the motions, that sparked something way back in the murky depths of my drug-addled mind.
That's what this show is, I hope.
But I don't remember the details around it. But I remember people doing that.
I'm Facebook friends with at least one or two ladies who were in my grade who would be
You should drill them a little bit and be like, what was the Save the Planet song?
What was the Save the Planet thing?
Yeah, because I'd be curious to hear more about that.
What was the Save the Planet thing? And do you still remember all the moves?
I bet they do.
Yeah. Note to self, I have to remember to do that.
So you got the same thing going on here with Captain Planet and the Planeteers. By the way, did you ever watch Captain Planet?
A couple of times. It was not my bag.
Yeah, I couldn't get into it. I tried watching it when there was nothing else on, but yeah,
right.
I couldn't
Cartoons,
get into it either. It was it felt too preachy. Even as a kid, I felt like my mom was yelling at me about something. That's just kind of the feeling that I got from it. Anyway, so we got Captain Planet there.
I didn't identify with any of them because...
I didn't either.
The one I wanted to identify with was the heart guy, but he was like the shortest. And I'm like, I'm not short, so I can't identify with him. There I go objectifying again.
Yeah. Aren't you about saving the planet? I mean, isn't that enough?
I guess I wasn't then, and I'm only slightly now.
All right. Okay. Here we got...
Hell yeah.
Animaniacs. This is the kind of card Andy would have been handing out for Valentine's Day. So you were a cartoon guy.
And I would have saved the Pinky and the Brain ones for the people I really liked.
Okay, so you took it to the next level in that way.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. See, I just didn't.
I was all about making a statement any chance I got at every turn.
Like I said, it just felt like homework to me.
Yeah.
And really that translates into the adult life when I'm looking at people standing in long lines waiting to buy flowers at Metro Mart. Like it's all the same shit. I'm like, Valentine's Day is trying to make me do homework right now by standing in this line. Well, I'm not going to play that game.
Kinda, yeah, I guess. Good point.
And I mean, luckily my wife's just not one of those crazy people that'll get mad at me if I don't do it.
Do your homework, yeah.
Disney afternoon stuff. So here's Chippendale.
Right on.
And a lot of times these cards had just really ridiculous puns on, but most of them were just really boring like this. And I think the reason for that is because they knew a lot of these were just going into classrooms. And so they couldn't say anything too lovey-dovey or whatever. More Disney afternoon stuff.
Yep.
And can you read any of those? No. They're all pretty boring. I don't remember anything really standing out to me when I was looking at them before. But yeah, these are pretty dumb.
Give me some nice Tales from the Crypt Valentines. I think you're a Scream, Valentine. Yee!
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that.
That would have been awesome.
That would have been awesome. I would have loved to get something like that, but it was always stuff like this. Here we go. Have a dynamite Valentine's Day.
Robbie. Doofus. Doofus was my dude.
DuckTales, V for Valentine. All right. Yeah, just more of this. Of course, your favorite sitcom character.
Yeah, you're the scrunchie to my ponytail.
Mm-hmm.
That is quintessential. That is peak 90s Valentine message.
Yeah. Yep.
It really is.
But that's more of a like lovey-dovey one. That's something that you give to your boyfriend or girlfriend. What else we got here? Okay, so then you get the Disney princess ones. So a lot of girls were handing out these, and these were the worst ones to get. So in my Valentine's experience, when I'm going through here, I am looking for two things. One, was there candy attached to it? That's the only thing that matters. It's not the card.
That little pack of 3 lifesavers.
Yeah, anything. A lot of them came with the little, people used to give like the little party-sized M&Ms and stuff too.
Or Milk Duds. Yeah,
sure, for sure. And that was all great. So that's what I was looking for. Whoever handed that stuff, it was never me because we were poor. My mom was probably already pissed having to buy stupid Valentine's cards. We weren't putting candy in it. So, and the other thing that I was looking for is the card something cool? Like, is it a cartoon that I like or, whatever. So anything that I got that was like this, Disney princesses, that's going immediately into the trash. So...
Flonk.
I like you, you're not crabby. And you get a lot of cards like this that say really stupid stuff like this.
Did Diley make that? Good Lord.
Yeah, it seems like it. Diley should have gotten a job writing for Valentine's cards.
Diley, you missed your calling in life. You 1,000% were meant to be a Valentine's Day card writer for kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Little Mermaid... anything Disney. Oh
Lord!
Here we go. We got
late
some
90s,
Spice Girls.
But still 90s. Yeah, for sure. Spice up your life.
So people are sharing stuff like this
in it.
So the cooler girls probably had something like this that they were sharing. Disney princesses are just too good for them.
Yeah, the girls who would watch TLC music videos and do their own choreographed dance moves to them in the living room. Yep. They're the ones that handed out those. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And then we got the stuff that like the sports bros would have passed out. So
100%.
Michael Jordan Valentines. Like, what is the connection at all? This is how, and I don't know if Valentine's cards are still like this, if they're still this dumb. But this is a dumb idea. So, first of all, it's, it looks like a box of Wheaties. They kind of made it look like that. But then it's all cards like this. Slam dunk a super day. These cards are not at all about the people that you're giving it to. These cards are just all about just looking at Michael Jordan and his... gorgeous, sweaty muscles, and Valentine's, you're looking fine. I think Michael's the one that looks fine there. It just, why would you do this? But people passed out stuff like this all the time. Teacher, you're the best. So a lot of them had teacher cards too. I remember that. Yeah. So there were cards specifically for your teacher.
That's that's awakening something way back in the drunken parts of my subconscious. I forgot that there was a teacher one, one or two teacher ones in every pack.
And some weird kind of double entendre cards like this. Valentine, you turn me on.
That for school kids,
maybe a little racy, but kids didn't know what they were passing out. Oh, more cowabunga, you're heavenly. So that's something that you're giving to a chick for sure. But again, it's just, man, you're messing with my favorite superheroes when you're doing this. And then the other class of card was always the weirdo cards. So the kids that were...
I was wondering if you'd touch on this.
The kids who were maybe too smart for the classes that they were in, they were going to do Ziggy or like Garfield or something like that.
Dilbert. Yeah.
Dilbert, yep. So they would have had cards like that. Really, everybody knew who the characters were, but they weren't super popular in mainstream. See, I probably would have been a Ninja Turtles kid because I liked the Ninja Turtles back then. That's what I would have got. So yeah, and then we're back to this again.
I thought for sure that this was going to culminate in a joke about, then you got people like Andy who hand out WWF Valentines. That's where I thought this was leading. I thought we were leading to a Hulk Hogan Valentine.
Did you have Hulk Hogan Valentines that you passed
but
out?
There's no doubt that they existed.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I mean, this was just kind of a sampling of the kind of stuff you would have seen in your Valentine packet. But
it was a good array. It was very, very much.
But again, the whole problem was the event, the process, everything that went into it. It just put you on the spot and made you take part in what's just kind of a dumb event anyway.
I feel like the kids who like just were the I don't really give a shit about anything and I laugh about it kind of kids, which I guess I would lump you in, would just bring in the most random stuff for their Valentines. It would be like it would be something that totally didn't fit their personality because their personality is they don't give a shit.
I wish that I could go back and do it again because I would try to find like porn Valentines or something like that because the whole thing was just so stupid. And like I said, all I got out of it was more work. That's all it was to me. But the other aspect of it was, and here's the part that I did enjoy, is that we got to take a break from school, from doing school stuff, sitting in a classroom, to pass out our Valentines and eat our candy and talk to other people. So that was a good thing.
Yeah, they would like shave 10 minutes off each class and then bunch them all together to make that block of time.
Yep. Here's a question for you. Do you know what Valentine's even is? Like where it comes from or anything like that?
I've heard of a St. Valentine's Day massacre.
Okay.
And that something violent. That's my answer to your
that was
question.
like a mob massacre in Chicago back in the 30s or whatever. Is that?
Oh, I thought there was something from like ancient Roman times where there was something that
you think Valentine's Day started because of this massacre somehow?
Maybe. Or like a different massacre and then the Chicago one like was a throwback to it somehow. I don't know.
Okay. So here's my question then. I didn't think you would have an answer. And I also think that if you ask 20 people aren't going to have an answer to this. So here's the question. Isn't that the one thing that you should have learned in school? Like the history of this thing that you're celebrating? Should you have learned anything about it other than it doesn't just revolve around handing out Ninja Turtle cards and declaring your love for some girl?
When you say, isn't this what we should have learned, what are you basing should on?
On the fact that school is supposed to be an educational institution. That's what I'm basing it on.
Oh, that's silly.
Yeah, apparently that is silly. And that blows my mind. So a couple of weeks ago, I went on that rant about how lame school is, and how I feel like I could have done so much better if I didn't waste all that time in school. Well, here's just more ammo for that. What is going on here? All we did was take this thing that has nothing to do with anything. It is literally just a Hallmark card holiday, and we're forced to participate in this as kids. We're taught what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do for Valentine's Day. And on top of that, you have all the Valentine's shows, like the sitcoms and the cartoons and everything that's going on outside of school. And nobody even knows where it comes from. You want to know where it comes from? I actually had to look into this because I don't know where it comes from.
It comes from love, and love has just always existed.
But it's a chore. Everything about this holiday is a chore. We are taught from the 90s into adulthood that we must participate in this chore.
To me, the biggest chore of all is trying to get yourself into a good, romantic, loving mood in the dead of fucking winter. Whose idea was it to put it in the middle of February?
The Catholics.
The vibes are all off.
Here's the thing.
It should be a September holiday.
So as Christianity was taking hold of the world, what happened was the Catholic Church had to contend with all these pagan faiths that they were trying to uproot. So what they did was they took a lot of these holidays, and we get Christmas from this and a lot of other church holidays, was they took the pagan holidays and replaced them with something Christian-y. So when you celebrate December 25th, well, that was like a pagan holiday. And so now we celebrate the birth of Christ on December 25th, but nobody knows when Jesus was born. Like it's just a day they pick to do this so that the pagans weren't having their fun.
It was best for business, right?
Right. And the same thing happened in the case of Valentine's Day.
Okay.
So what they're doing is the original Saint Valentine. First of all, there were a handful of them, so nobody really knows which Valentine we're supposed to be celebrating. But there is a story of this guy who was martyred in Rome back in the year 269. So 69. How
Nice.
is that not Valentine's-y?
Absolutely. I'll drink to that.
So he was martyred back then, and of course, anybody who was preaching Christianity back then was killed, of course. So this guy, what he ended up doing though was he healed his jailer's daughter of blindness, and so his whole house converted, and that's what he is kind of known for.
Okay.
The problem with this particular Valentine is that during one of the last persecutions of the Christian church back then, they burned like all of his writings and all of his works. So we really don't know anything about this guy other than the legends that kind of sprung up around him.
Oh, wow.
The reason it became a love holiday is because they were replacing some fertility holidays that the pagans were celebrating. So it was Pan and the god Juno, or the demigod Juno and demigod Pan. So they were all about fertility and love and all of that stuff. So that's where all that stuff came from. So, school, I just did your job for you. I just educated whoever's watching this on the true meaning of Valentine and where it all came from. Not that any of it matters, because you still got to buy your girlfriend shit or she's going to get mad at you.
They taught us about the Aztec civilization and the Incan Empire and the Mayans, but they couldn't teach us this?
Yeah.
They couldn't have squozed this in? The hell?
Especially if they're going to shove it down your throat at school. And look, let's be honest. This is 100% a woman's holiday. There is nothing that any guy anywhere gives a shit about when it comes to Valentine's Day. The entire thing is marked by hearts and pinkness and redness and chocolates and flowers. it is 100% a woman's holiday, which makes sense in the context of school, because who teaches school? 80% of the teachers are women.
That's where I thought you were going. Yeah.
So obviously we're going to learn the proper way to treat a lady on this particular day.
The whole thing's a pyramid scheme.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Light just went off in my head. The whole thing is a pyramid scheme.
Women are devious, man. Like they have their shit. They're 10 moves ahead of us at all times. You get the kids young to make sure that the next generation of women are getting the proper amount of flowers and chocolates, being treated right.
Being treated right. Meanwhile, they're off being Macarenas, right? How would we know if they're not?
Yeah, doesn't matter. Just get your shit on Valentine's Day or face the wrath. Doesn't matter what she's doing behind your back.
Just don't think about it.
So anyway, that was Valentine's Day in the 90s. I don't even know if kids still do. I'm assuming that it's all the same. Like, why would the pyramid scheme die back then? I'm sure it's going as strong as ever today. But anyway,
just with more rules.
You gotta break out of it. Break out of the matrix, like I have. Find yourself a woman who's not going to care so much.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that's all I had for that.
Okay.
But let me finish it off by just giving you one more card.
No way.
Happy Valentine's Day.
To Andy from Corey. Just a reminder this Valentine's Day that you're not special and hearts are gay.
That's right. That's my anti-Valentine's card.
It's balls, not a heart. You're holding balls. So also you're gay. Or so you're also gay.
Now that's a cool Valentine's.
That really is a pretty cool Valentine's.
So I had a little message at the bottom of it that said, turn it over.
Yes,
so that you turn it over.
Flips it upside down.
And then there's more directions that say, flip it upside down. And then it just becomes a set of balls.
It becomes a set of hairy balls.
That Andy was holding.
I might just...
That's a dude's Valentine's card.
Go ahead and put that on my lap there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
get nice and close to it.
Man, I feel bad I didn't get you a Valentine. You want some wafer cookies?
No, I'm good.
Some gluten-flavored gluties, as it were?
No.
Oh, no, these are... sugar wafers. I thought it said sugar-free. No, it says sugar wafers. I shouldn't eat that stuff. It's so bad for me. Man... Well, I was gonna make a point when you were talking about the different kinds of Valentines. I feel like the poor kids, and I'm not picking on poor kids, but I mean, let's face it. Sometimes there were poor kids. They would bring in Valentines that
we were poor kids.
That made you say, "Where did you even get these?" Because they were from like Family Dollar or something, like tucked away in the back, or maybe like their mom was like, "Here, I've found some old ones from when I was a kid. Let's just erase what's written on them really hard and then write over them." You know, that kind of thing.
Like old Valentines?
I'm just trying to illustrate this wacky idea that was actually kind of true. I don't know where some of these kids got some of these Valentines from.
I think we just always had generic ones.
Yeah.
They would just have generic cartoon characters or something. They wouldn't be name brand or popular or anything.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's just a silly it's a silly thing to do. It's a silly thing to do and then not teach anybody where it comes from. What's the origins of it?
I'll never forget the first time I bought, like the day after Valentine's Day, they're half off, so everything's all cheap. And I'm like, oh, all right, these hearts, these cardboard hearts that you open up and there's chocolate in them, they're marked down from $2 to $1. This is great. Then you open it up and there's 4 pieces of candy in there, and they're the tiniest pieces of chocolate you've ever seen. Each one is barely bigger than a milk dud. I'm like, even at half off, this isn't worth $1. What the hell? Mm-hmm. I'm still mad.
Valentine's Day is just a disappointment to men everywhere. It's always a disappointment.
Especially men who love candy and a good deal.
Yeah.
Valentine's. Once I realized that we were doing a show on Valentine's, I was almost going to not say anything because I'm like, I usually don't have someone on Valentine's every year.
I had other topics.
Yeah.
And then I found out from somebody else, somebody who watches the show, was like, oh, are you guys going to do a Valentine's? I'm like, why would we do that? Well, because it's on Valentine's Day. I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, do I even want to talk about Valentine stuff? And I'm like, yeah, why not? It's good. It's exposure therapy, right?
Valentine's back in the 90s ruined my dating life, to be honest, because it was one of those things that I just never gave a shit about and never thought about. And so there was a couple of times with girls that I was dating where they would get super pissed that I didn't get anything on Valentine's Day.
You weren't helping the
pyramid
pyramid
scheme. Who gives
scheme.
a shit?
If you're not helping the pyramid scheme, you're hurting the pyramid scheme.
And there were also the other kids who would make big shows of affection in school. It would be between classes, and then some guy would walk out with a bunch of roses to give to his lady.
Yeah.
And everybody would be like, that's so good. Mm-hmm. And then I would just take a swig of my Dr. McGillicuddy's that I was hiding in my locker and just be like, man, this is... Just when you think school can't get any more dumb, then something like this happens.
You didn't have McGillicuddy's. You had Boone's Farm and you had Mad Dog.
Peppermint schnapps.
Yeah?
Yep. Dr. McGillicuddy's. I don't even know if they make that shit anymore. I never liked...
Yeah, I haven't bought it in a while, so I
never
don't know
liked
either.
Mad Dog. I always thought that was so gross.
It was like...
I drank it.
My brother had it all the time, which means either he liked it or it was the only thing he could get his hands on.
I think it was the only thing we could get our hands on.
Yeah.
It was so gross, even our parents wouldn't drink it, so it's easier to steal.
They probably inherited it from somebody else and then just kind of got passed around. And yeah, it's funny. You always have that booze. You always have that collection of, I don't want it, you can have it.
I should have thought to get my girlfriend's booze for Valentine's Day. That would have been a win-win.
Yeah.
I mean, shame on me for not trying to think ahead and try to...
Pretend like you're trying to make the pyramid scheme better, but actually you're trying to infiltrate and dismantle it.
Yeah, for sure. And try to get some at the same time.
Do we want to check the chat, see if anybody said anything?
Oh, we can do that.
Oh, snap. Hey.
All right.
Hello,
All kinds of stuff.
Thanks for showing up.
Blood Havoc says, what's up? Valentine's Day is a boring holiday. Yes, it is, my man. Don't give into it. Don't let anybody fool you into celebrating that.
Heyo.
Cartoons, cringe anime is better. Sure, for Valentine's cards. But it's SpongeBob, then it's fine. Yeah, but not for Valentine's cards. You don't want any of that.
I'd be down with a Patrick Valentine's Day card. Or a Squidward.
Yo, pair, boogers. Boogers, that's a good post.
What up?
I forgot it was Valentine's Day today. Well, we're here to remind you to make sure that you get your lovely ladies something.
That's what this podcast is. It's a service to you, the listener. Help us help you.
So, boogers.
How about some boogers and come? Love South Park. Okay, so for my last topic, I'm going to need you to help me make sure I don't get too serious about this. Remind me to be funny. Remind me to be lighthearted about this.
Just hold the balls in your hand the whole time you're talking about it.
Right on. I'll be chin ball boy. Should I just put this right here? Just kind of, nah.
You know what's funny though? When I was making those, I was right in the process of making one for my wife. And she walked in the door. And I was like, oh, man, I was going to make you a ball heart card. And she was just kind of like, well, it's a thought that counts.
So you've evolved from the days of thinking that making Valentines were a chore to now wanting to do it.
Well, yeah, because I was making them for you anyway, so...
Because the balls joke trumps all the negativity of being part of the system.
Yeah, because making a joke about you being gay and holding balls is fun and funny.
But more funny than the rest of it is bad. Yeah, ball jokes.
Yeah,
ball jokes.
Like balls are always funny.
You know, poop, fart, wiener, and ball jokes just kind of trump everything. Really.
Yeah, you never outgrow that. But you couldn't do like ball Valentine's cards or like fart Valentine's cards. Like that stuff would have been great.
They would have made you go see the school counselor. Which brings me to my last topic. There was a school counselor, but in my grade school, but she was kind of like an assistant school counselor. She was kind of, I'm going to try my hardest to not say her real name because I don't want to stay in that habit. I mean, I'll call Bob because he's Bob and he sucks and I don't care if he hears what I have to say. I'm going to try not
there's
to.
50 million Bobs.
Yeah. I'm going to try not to say like teachers' names and stuff like that. So this lady, she was like an assistant school counselor when I was in grade school in Amherst. Like, I think she would kind of fill in when the main counselor wasn't there, or she would like be an assistant if there was ever like, because we used to have guidance. We used to have guidance as like a every Friday, every other Friday type of thing where the counselor would come in, show us some, I don't know, after school special or whatever. And then we would just kind of like talk about it for an hour and just do an activity.
Really?
You know, well, when did you get to Amherst? Like junior high?
We had a class called like teen skills or something that we had to take. It was kind of like that.
That sounds familiar.
Basically where you go in there and they're like, hey, don't do marijuana. Marijuana will ruin your life.
Sign this DARE contract. Yeah, for sure. I think it was probably called guidance in grade school, and then it must have just been called teen skills after
grade
that.
School stuff.
Yeah, but how much of grade school did you do in Amherst? None?
All of it. Well,
no, you didn't.
From fourth grade.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, we had a class called guidance, and it was usually the main school counselor lady, but sometimes it was her with the assistant one in addition, in case there was like more to facilitate or whatever. I think she was just kind of the pinch hitter, kind of the whatever, just like an extra hand to have around, but her official designation had to be something. So they're like, oh, okay, you're a guidance counselor too. And I'm just going to refer to her as Miss Weird Al because she just so happened to have a hairdo that was very, very much like 80s and the first part of the 90s Weird Al hair.
So did she go to school like in college in the 80s probably? How young was she?
How good was I at gauging teachers' ages when I was, 10 or 12?
I mean, Weird Al hair on a teacher back then was... I would say she came out of the 80s.
Miss Weird Al, yeah, Miss Weird Al had to have been younger than the main guidance counselor.
Yeah, because she would have been like an understudy, right?
Of sorts, yeah. So she was like my favorite person. And I don't know how much of that had to do with the fact that Weird Al is my favorite musician and she just happened to have his same silhouette, as it were.
And that the adults that should have been role models to you were absolutely despised. That might have had something to do with it, too.
Loathsome. Maybe. So
did she have Weird Al glasses, too?
I don't remember.
Did she have Weird Al Hawaiian shirts?
On Fridays. No. So how did this go? I don't even remember exactly how I got to the point where I asked if I could just go see her regularly. But I think it was just as simple as our teachers would mention in offhand comments every now and then, anytime you need to talk to the counselor, just go ahead. That's what they're there for, that kind of thing.
You were one of the kids that took them up on that?
Yeah.
Huh.
Absolutely. Because I wanted to talk to this person specifically. Okay. They would ask me, what about the main guidance counselor lady? I'm like, can I talk to the other one? The other one, I don't know how I would say it. I don't know if I said we seem to communicate better or just flat out I like her more. I don't remember what I said. I had no tact back then. I'm sure I was just like, no, I like Miss Weird Al more. I'm sure I was just very blatant. And so I got to a point where I was supposed to see her for like 30 minutes every week, but there was always something that came up about every other week to where she wasn't there. She had to be pulled away to something else. She had to cancel. She was sick, whatever. So, and this had to have been less than a half a year. It had to have been like less than a half a year, 5 months or so, that I would end up getting to see her about every other week. And we would just talk about stuff. And sometimes she'd be like, do you want to talk about anything that's bothering you? And sometimes I'd say yes. Sometimes I'd say no. So I think sometimes I just wanted to talk about what I saw on TV or whatever. And she would go along with it and she would laugh and she would be cool. Dude,
have you ever listened to a little kid talk about stuff they saw on TV? It is brutal.
and then his sword was so big.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm sure I was. Oh, she had to have had a lot of patience to deal with me talking about.
You just said that she did a lot of canceling too. So,
ooh, yeah, some of that might have been. I can't handle that kid this week. It's entirely possible. Ooh, that just kind of blew my mind when you said that just now. Anyways, Mr. Psyching me out, jerk. That lasted for a little while until she said, bad news, I'm moving away. And I'm like, no. She's like, it's not for like another month, so we'll get to hang out and talk a few more times. But yeah, I think it was something along the lines of she might have even been getting married and like went to move to a different city.
With that hairdo?
Different time, man.
I guess.
Different time. So that sucked. Each of those last few times I hung out with her, it became a little bit more real, but it was a good way of letting me down easy too. Like it was way better than just being like, well, this is the last time we'll hang out and talk. And yeah, that really sucked that she left. And I'll tell you why. As the years would pass by, I would think back to hanging out and talking to her, and just like, I'll be like, oh man, she was such a part of my life and she probably didn't even know it. And I eventually got to a point where I'm like, oh my God, I just had a eureka moment. Simply put, I wanted to go see her and talk to her because I think she was the only person who was nice to me.
The only adult that was nice to you?
She was the only person at all who was reliably nice to me. I was friends with the misfits. I was friends with the weirdos. Those kids had emotional problems big time. I never knew one day to the next if I wasn't their friend no more, or
yeah, they were pretty flaky people.
Yeah, and very we were kids,
Mm-hmm.
They were flaky, they were flighty, they were ego driven in their own weird way. We're all in the dark, pawing around for something warm that feels good. You know what I mean? Proverbially. So yeah, she was like the only person who was nice to me. And it was a breath of fresh air every time I got to talk to her. All the muscles in my body would like unclench. I'd be like, oh wow, I almost used the word safe space. I almost said safe place. I'm like, I'm in a safe place now. I can actually let my guard down a little bit. Like, and I bring this up because, we're talking about the topic of love today because of Valentine's Day. I'm not going to say that I like romantically loved her or anything like that. When
back in the 90s, for the most part, teachers weren't scoring with the kids like they are.
I think for the most part, yeah, but
it was definitely more rare.
I remember what I said last week about Bonnie Raitt. I said in the 90s, I couldn't tell if she was 30 or 70. Mm-hmm. The more that I think about it, that was a lot of ladies when I was in grade school in the 90s.
If you look at old yearbooks with teachers that have Weird Al hair, it's hard even now to gauge how old they might be. It's tough. It was the hair that did it.
The bushy curls cover some of the forehead wrinkles. Yeah, to be fair. Yeah. I couldn't tell. So I couldn't even tell how old she was, but I felt love in the sense that, oh, it's a person I can communicate with and who I connect with. That's really what I'm trying to drive home here is the word connection. Like, I actually connected with this person because connecting with her didn't suck like it did with everybody else. And what else can I say other than I'm glad she was part of my life for that brief period of time. That was really awesome. I think a lot of other kids probably, like what you said 10 minutes ago, you're like, and you actually took them up on it when they said you can go see the guidance counselor anytime you want. I think a lot of kids had that same reaction when they found out, like, oh, I willfully go see a guidance counselor every week.
Yeah, I got sent there. I never went willingly. I always got sent.
But I honestly think a lot of other kids were like, you can do that? As if to say, like, you don't have to be ashamed of doing it, like kind of flipping the script on you there a little bit. Some of the other kids started doing what I did and asking if they could go see her too. That's a real thing, and that happened. And then she left. Maybe I created too much demand for her and it was too much pressure, and she's like, I got to get out of here. Go get a job somewhere else that's more low key.
Yeah, she's listening to all these kids talk about what they saw on TV. Oh, Jesus. Oh.
I know Andy told you that the swords that he saw on Ninja Turtles were the best, but I saw a different show where the swords were more bigger. Let me tell you about them. Oh my God.
Do you remember anything you talked about?
Cheers to the patience of teachers.
What'd you talk to her about? Did you ever talk about like how shitty your mom was and stuff?
Sometimes, yeah. There was at least one point in time where she got just a teeny tiny little bit agitated because, like, I just wanted to talk about what I wanted to talk about, and I never let her take the lead. And that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, oh yeah, like this is guidance counseling. Like, I suppose we're supposed to talk about serious stuff, but I was going to talk about fun stuff for as long as you let me, obviously, because it was somebody to talk about it with who didn't make me feel dumb. So, and to this day, I still kind of have that attitude. I make things about myself and I talk about whatever I want to until somebody kind of gives me a nudge or cuts me off or moves away like she did.
You might have sent her in that.
It's entirely possible. I'm glad I didn't say her name. I'm glad I just said Miss Weird Al, but who knows? Maybe she's listening right now. Maybe she's watching us on YouTube.
Did you ever try looking her up on Facebook or anything?
I don't remember. I don't think her last name is the same now, though.
I've never done that, but I've had teachers friend me on Facebook. And I would just, I don't know, man. School was just a big pain in my ass in every conceivable possible way, that the second I was gone, I just kind of forgot everything about it.
I think I've accepted every friend request I've ever gotten from a teacher.
So did I.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I absolutely did.
Yeah.
I hung out with one a few months ago. Got together and had dinner with him.
I remember.
Yeah. And it was cool. It was fine.
Yeah, for sure. He was,
because it's a completely different dynamic, because now you're both adults, and he still has 20 years on you, so he's still got the 20-year hindsight to work from.
Yeah.
But yeah, you realize at some point in your life that you're all just human beings, and you're all just kind of struggling and finding your way through the dark.
You can laugh about the past, especially after you get a couple beers in you, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I don't think I ever had any animosity towards any of my teachers. They were just there, and I would get in trouble in their classes, but that was mostly just boredom. Just bored out of my mind most of the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you get your name written on the board a lot with one check mark next to it, two check marks?
Yeah. Oh, I remember that shit. Sure.
If you get past 2 check marks, you have to go to the principal's office.
Yeah, but going to the principal's office usually meant I had to go see the guidance counselor. Like, I don't ever remember any interactions with the principal. I only ever remember having to go see the guidance counselor. And it was always like stupid shit. Looking back on it now, 90% of everything any of my guidance counselors ever said turned out to be completely wrong. So obviously they have their little handbook that they're working from, and they have to say certain things, but it was bullshit. And for whatever reason, even as a kid, I was just not really buying into anything that they were saying. I'm just like, yeah, I have to be here. So
you recognize they have their own pyramid scheme. Or scheme anyways. Yeah, man.
They got a paycheck. They're just there trying to earn a living.
Something else I wanted to mention, and this is only halfway relating to the guidance counselor thingy, is Doing this podcast, what I'm trying to do is mindfulness and humor and 90s nostalgia all wrapped up. And I like what I do. I think it's fun. I think we play off each other pretty well, but I'm starting to get a distinct notion from certain listeners that I might be suffering. I think some people think that I'm in a bad place because I talk about all this stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I'm trying to turn this into like therapy to like get over 90s stuff. That's only half true.
I told somebody the other day that I wish while you're telling these stories, you could turn into like teenage Andy. So I could reach across the table and smack you like upside the head and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you thinking like that? Just don't do that. But whatever.
Wait your turn. It's mostly going to be me going back in time and doing that to teenage self.
Well, yeah, but we all do that to ourselves anyway, though. That's part of the process of being an adult. I look back on how stupid I was, like even 10 years ago, just the way I thought about anything. It's a process.
Yeah, we learn. But I mean, what am I really saying here? I think it...
So why the story about the guidance counselor that you like? Just because you liked her, or... Because it was just somebody that you had to talk to that you didn't absolutely hate?
I think I'm illustrating the point that for me...
You definitely got more out of school than I did. That's what I'm getting out of everything.
I think a real connection with a person and like being nice to somebody and having somebody who's actually compassionate towards you, I think that's love that can mean just as much as stupid romantic Valentine's love. And I think it, for me personally, because of my values, it means more than like family love.
The Romans or the Greeks had, I want to say like 12 different words for love.
Oh yeah, I've heard that somewhere.
They have compassion and they have romantic love, and yeah, there's a whole bunch of them.
When I was learning, well, I want to say I was in Spanish class in college, and I wanted to learn how to say "I'm a little lad who loves berries and cream" in Spanish. I had to learn the difference between encantado and enamorado. And I'm still not 100% sure if I'm getting this right, but I think encantado means you're enchanted by something, you're dazzled, you're charmed. That's like objective. That's like, oh, it's a thing. It's an inanimate object that you think is neat. And then I think enamorado means you're enamored with it, and I think that's more like infatuation and personal love. So, soy un chico pequeño con es encantado. No, soy un chico pequeño es encantado con bayas y crema, I think is what I came to figure out. But the weird thing about Google Translate is,
oh yeah, you can't use Google Translate.
You translate it one way and then you translate it back, and it's not what you started with. It's like, what are you doing?
No, you got to ask an actual Spanish speaking person
who isn't just going to fuck with you and tell you lies, which is funny. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
So yeah, man, I think it's good to talk about this stuff. Here I am on my little soapbox here, but I'm trying to lead by example to some degree. Like, I think it's good to mix, trying to be funny and trying to be nostalgic and trying to be introspective and trying to be like, hey, I'm not afraid to fucking talk about this stuff in a very real way. I think that's a good thing. I think a lot of people are like, oh, you don't just do that. Like, you must have problems. You know what I mean? I think some people think that, but maybe I'm imagining that and I really do have problems. I don't know. But
you remember stuff that there's no, like, I just would have forgotten a long, long time ago.
Yeah, I do that.
Well,
I think it's because the 90s was the last time I had a level of present moment awareness that was actually a passing grade level of present moment awareness. I think as the 90s progressed, my present moment awareness went from A grade slowly, gradually to F- grade. What else? Anything else in the chat?
Well, I'm glad you had a love of your guidance counselor.
Love of a lifetime, as it were. No, she was the coolest. She was literally just somebody who was normal and smiley. I swear to God, dude, like the day, it was such a eureka moment when I realized, dude, at that time in my life, it was the only person I could count on to be nice to me. That's a big deal. That's a big statement to make. I want to make those statements. I hope people listening are like, oh, wow, I wonder if I had something like that in my life. And then they think back and introspect and come up with those eureka moments are so neat to me. I want other people to have them too. So, and I said I want to mix introspection with humor, with nostalgia, with being real, with just like a little bit of everything. It reminds me of, and this isn't really about the 90s, but it reminds me of a Maya Angelou quote, something along the lines of great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. Mm-hmm. I loved that quote at first.
Was that Maya Angelou?
I'm almost positive. Yeah. I loved that quote at first, but then as time went on, I'm like, I still like that quote, but how I would change it would be like, yeah, but somebody who's really awesome is going to do their best to balance all three of those things to make sure that everybody's part of the conversation that's being talked about. Do a little bit of all of it. Try to tie events into ideas.
I tend to think small minds talk about people, though. I don't mean like celebrities or anything like that. I just mean like people in your own life and just having a lot to say about somebody, usually negatively.
But you come to the conclusion small minds generally do talk about just people. Then what?
That's it.
I try to get them to be part of the conversation by trying to dupe them into talking about people until it turns into an idea and you start to open up the ducts in their brains, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
I just don't think it works that way. I think you're just way more optimistic about how people operate. I think it's the only way
it works. The only way it's gonna work.
I think it is it's an effort that you have to take upon yourself to actually try to engage in. I don't think it's something you can just trick people into doing. I think most people just simply aren't interested in
communicating.
Well, or just like really just learning anything.
I say communicating because I tie it back to Miss Weird Al, and I even tie it back to the Macarena situation. Breakdown of communication is the theme of both of those things. Communication is. The Macarena thing happened because of a breakdown in communication. She failed to tell her guy in the army,
She was going to do that anyway. She's a whore. That's the thing. That's my point. You're never going to dupe her into not being a whore, because that's what she wants to do.
Chinese finger cuffs. Yeah. And the thing with Miss Weird Al was communication didn't break down. And I thought it was a miracle. I could have communications with a person that wasn't complete dog shit. Great. I went to school. Everybody was a jerk to me, and now I get to take the bus back to the middle of fucking nowhere and hang out with Bob. Can you understand how this guidance counselor was such an oasis? Like, I looked forward to hanging out with her almost as much as Balky on TGIF every Friday. Like, these were the things that made me say, life isn't so crappy after all.
I don't know, man. Oh, I just don't. It would never have occurred to me to even look to the guidance counselor as somebody I could talk to. I don't even think I even saw them really as a person as a kid. I was just like, all right, you're just another tool of this whole system that's meant to keep me here.
Maybe she moved away. Maybe when she told me she moved away, maybe she was such a cool person, she actually realized, I don't want to be part of this crappy school thing anymore. Like, I don't want to work for schools.
See, that's why you got to look her up and see if you can find her and see if she actually went on and did something.
Yeah, find out what happened after what would have been 92 probably, or whenever she moved away. Yeah, maybe she's like, I'm getting out of this whole racket. I see it as a pyramid scheme. I'll be like, I said that too. We really are soulmates. You're the best. I love you. Here's a Valentine.
Give her one of those. You were talking about Maya Angelou. Give her some real fucking poetry right there.
Ooh, some real words of wisdom.
Yes.
With ball hair drawn on in Sharpie.
Hell yeah. All right. Roslyn says, Corey doesn't require me to wish anything for Valentine's. He makes all of my dreams come true. That's right. I told you. See, I don't have to wait in flower lines or do any of that. All right.
Heck yeah,
oh, wait. Did we have a dialy? We had a dialy.
We do have a dialy. I say that hesitantly because I'm still considering firing him from this whole call-in thing. But
I think he did great.
I mean, let's see what he's got.
All right.
Raging away again, I'm losing hair and stuff. Searching for my reason why I'm not gay. Some people say I should have put a booby poster up, but I know I don't know how to finish this song.
That's it. Dialy, write an ending to that.
I'll do it for you. Some people claim I should have put a booby poster up, but I know, it was Bob's damn fault.
Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, God.
All right.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell from Dialy singing the song, and I couldn't tell from you until you did the thing. Like, it was only that gave it away. I was like, oh, okay.
Dialy, you're going to need some singing lessons.
We both need singing lessons.
And the ability to finish a parody. Otherwise, we're going to have to fire you from these call-ins.
But, yeah, I can relate. Yeah. Get that booby poster up.
Man, Jimmy Buffett. Do you think people loved him so much because his lyrics took them to where they wanted to be?
I never loved him at all. I always thought that song was dumb.
When you brought in old fucks from the 90s, like those were the people who mostly inhabited the lawn of Jimmy Buffett concerts up until last year when he died, I think.
He's dead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he played in Alpine Valley as recently as like a year and a half ago, and then he died last year. He was touring and playing for 20,000 people a night right up till the very end.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, good for him.
He was probably about 70, give or take, so not super old, but certainly not young.
What are all the boomers going to do now?
Good question.
Like, there's nobody else that you can watch in concert where you just lay in a lawn chair and drink margaritas.
People are going to have to double down on Dave Matthews that much more now.
It doesn't matter. The boomers aren't going to be around much longer anyway. Who cares?
One can only hope, yeah.
All right. I am going to bring in boomer parents as a topic sometime.
Right.
Because that's a whole... Oof. You're not the only one that's damaged. They damaged everybody. They screwed a whole generation.
Let's talk about it. Let's mix talking about people, boomers, events, everything the boomers ruined, and ideas.
Everything they tried to ruin that the Gen Xers had to bring back or had to scale back.
Yeah.
Or are working on scaling back.
Every time people mention Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, I'm like, I still don't know what to call myself.
It doesn't matter. There's no hard, fast rule. You're a Gen Xer.
I like things wrapped up in neat little packages.
Yeah, it doesn't work. With generations, it doesn't work that way, though.
At the end, yeah, it's true, because like, how can you and I categorically...
We're not different generations.
Technically, I think by more than 50% of metrics would say you're X and I'm millennial.
Yes, but it doesn't work. That's why I say it doesn't work that way.
I just call us both Zennials.
Yeah.
Because that's somebody just kind of made that up, and I'm like, that might just be made up bullshit, but one, it's all made up bullshit. And two, I really like that. Like Zennial. Like I'll take that. I'll take being called a Zennial, but not a millennial.
It really is just all made up bullshit.
Just like Valentine's Day.
Like Valentine's Day. All right. Is that all we got today?
just like guidance counselors and school structures.
Well, like guidance counselors, the thing about school is guidance counselors and teachers and all those people, they can be good people. It's not like, like I shit on the public education system all the time, but I shit on it as an institution. That doesn't mean I hate everybody who utilizes the institution or works in the institution or anything like that. I think for me, the institution failed miserably and held me back as a human being and did not allow me to reach my potential. You got a good guidance counselor out of it that you could talk to. So
she was
a mixed bag.
And she was only a secondary part-timer who was there like a flash and then was gone.
And that's why too, because she hadn't been doing it for 20 years. Otherwise she wouldn't have. There's no way she's going to sit down with kids for that long and listen to all their nonsense.
I mean, that's funny and all, but I genuinely think she was cool with kids. I think she had that level of patience. She wasn't phony.
Maybe.
In case I haven't mentioned it, and I mentioned this about music last week. Maybe I think I forgot to drive this point home as much as I wanted to last week. I used to be in the 90s. I used to judge music on like, do I think they're hot? Do I think they're somebody I want to emulate? And I've
grown. They have dreads? That look cool.
Yeah, but I've done a pretty good job of maturing to the point where I like music if it sounds good. The secondary point to that I really wanted to make was, does the singer come across as earnest and authentic? Because sometimes if it's a style of music that I'm not necessarily wild about, but I come across it just by chance, and I'm like, this person is really making me believe that this music is coming from their guts and their nuts, I'll give it more of a chance than I would otherwise. If they just strike me as just like...
Even if it sounds like shit?
No.
See, I won't.
That's a good question. Usually it doesn't... Usually I can't interpret it as sounding like shit if it comes across as authentic. I want to see the good side of it, and I just find a way to like it. Even if it's a genre I don't normally like. That happens with a lot of folk music. Like, folk music can be a little bit boring, and the singer's voice can be a little off-putting.
I don't know. Like, but if it's there's good and bad folk music, though.
But if it's just like agonizing, and like the lyrics are just like really like hit you as like, oh my God, this person, this is real. They're the real deal. I'll give it that many more bonus points to the point where I'm like, I'm going to listen to this more and possibly even buy some of the CDs and go see them. I wanted to connect that to what I talked about today with Miss Weird Al and teachers in general at school. I wanted to see Miss Weird Al and not the other guidance counselor, because the other guidance counselor, the main one, didn't strike me as authentic. Or
because they'd been doing it for so long that
they're phoning it in after 20 years, probably after the first 10, really. Yeah, so no,
I'd be doing it after the first half a year.
That circles back to your point. Like, Miss Weird Al was probably still in that like almost probationary period where she's like, do I even like doing this, or should I? Which is why I'm starting to speculate now. She just got out of the racket altogether. When she moved away, she went and got a cool job making her own song parodies, maybe. Or maybe she married a sugar daddy. I don't know.
Or maybe you just ruined her life and turned her off from it forever and ever. That's the thanks that you give her.
I'll be here in the corner crying on my balls if anybody wants me. I ruined it.
You should look at
this still smells like Sharpie. You must have made these today.
I did. They were like a last minute thing.
It smells good.
Yeah, you should look her up. You should try to find her, see what happened to her.
Speaking of
Since you have such a connection with her, I just can't relate on any level with my teachers. I mean, thought my Spanish teacher was hot and definitely wanted to spend some time with her after class, but
wanted to have some encantado time with her or enamorado time with her after class.
Some fuego y gasolina time with her. All right, with that, I'm shutting it down.
No. Sexy party. That's what you wanted with.
Yeah, that's Italian, though.
It's still European amore vibes. It counts.
Euro trash. All right. I'm going to play the theme song and take us out. Thanks, everybody, for watching the Mindful 90s podcast.
Thanks a million. Like and subscribe. We're on Spotify. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. I think we're on Friendster. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was fun.
Deuces.
We'll see y'all next week.